Here's the brief news from the world over this week. Republican Donald Trump faced off against Democratic rival Hillary Clinton in a combative but substantive third and final presidential debate in Las Vegas on Wednesday. They discussed their views on abortion, gun rights, immigration, taxes, the economy, ISIS, Iran, and Syria. One new controversy has emerged: whether the election is rigged. Reviving the successful argument he made about both the Republican and Democratic primaries, Trump had spent the days leading up to the debate warning voters that the general election could be rigged. At the debate, moderator Chris Wallace asked whether he would accept the election outcome if Clinton emerges as the victor. Trump said he would look at it at the time, that is, after the election. The two candidates also clashed over Russian President Vladimir Putin and the country's purported hacking of Clinton's related emails. Here's a bit of that exchange.
Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line because he has a very clear favorite in this race.
She doesn't like Putin because Putin has outsmarted her at every step of the way.
Trump entered the debate trailing in most polls by as many as 10 points in some. Not since Ronald Reagan has a candidate recovered from a deficit this deep and this late in the race. More on the final debate and the final 2 weeks of this historic presidential election in our next segment. And rigged election or no, undercover video released this week of purported voter fraud and the inciting of violence at political rallies by Democratic operatives is creating new headaches for Hillary Clinton. Political activist James O'Keefe procured the video through his group Project Veritas. The central character in the recordings is Scott Foval. In one video, he says how it would be easier to get away with voter fraud if out-of-state residents drive to the polls in the targeted states rather than being bussed in there by an organizer. So you can't prove that it's en masse, he said, so it doesn't tip people off. In another video, Foval brags about deploying troublemakers at Trump rallies. He further boasts about his connections to the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party. He claims that he got mentally ill people to incite violence at Trump rallies. You can message to draw them out and draw them out to punch you, Foval says in the video. In July, the Democratic National Committee paid $26,000 to a consulting group called Mobilize to stage Democratic events at Trump rallies. Hillary Clinton did not comment on the controversy when it was brought up during the debate. Afterwards, she told reporters she knew nothing about it. And according to FBI files made public Monday, a senior State Department official asked the FBI last year to help alter the classification of email from Hillary Clinton's private server. It was to be part of a bargain that would have allowed the FBI to deploy more agents in foreign countries. Bureau records indicate that State Department Undersecretary Patrick Kennedy sought a, quote, quid pro quo. In exchange for the declassification, the FBI would be given desirable overseas deployments. The FBI ultimately rejected the idea, which would have allowed the State Department to archive a message related to the Benghazi attack. And according to the FBI files, it would never be seen again. Wednesday's presidential debate was not the last election season stage that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump appeared on together. They were featured at the 71st annual Al Smith Dinner in Manhattan on Thursday. The annual charitable gala, held at the Waldorf Astoria each year, was hosted by the Archdiocese of New York and Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Some Catholics have objected to the Cardinal inviting a candidate who opposes church teaching on issues ranging from abortion to marriage. Now, some of Dolan's predecessors refused to invite candidates to the dinner who advocated positions at odds with church teaching. Still, both Trump and Clinton appeared at the dinner. Before the gathering, Cardinal Dolan weighed in on the leaked remarks by members of Clinton's campaign staff mocking Catholics and Catholicism.
Extraordinarily patronizing and insulting to Catholics. If it had been said about the Jewish community, if it had been said about the Islamic community, within 10 minutes there would have been an apology and a complete distancing from those remarks. Hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping that she's going to distance herself from these very insulting remarks of her chief of staff.
The Clinton campaign has yet to issue a retraction for those statements. And the battle to liberate Mosul is underway. An air and ground offensive was launched against ISIS this week in the largest military operation there since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Christian militias and Peshmerga forces, backed by the U.S., have joined Iraqi troops in the effort to retake the city once considered the heartland of Iraq's Christian population. Mosul was overrun by the Islamic State forces in 2014. It remains the last ISIS stronghold in Iraq. 1 million civilians are trapped there. Iraq officials estimate it could take 2 months to liberate Mosul. Here's some good news. Near Mosul, Christians are rejoicing after the liberation of Kara Kush, once a city of 50,000. It is home to 10 Syriac Catholic and Orthodox churches. And there was rejoicing in Nigeria on Sunday for 21 families of those schoolgirls kidnapped 2.5 years ago by Boko Haram militants. The girls were reunited with their parents. They were released on Thursday last week after a negotiated release between the government and Boko Haram. On Wednesday, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari met with the girls and their families. He promised to continue his efforts to secure the release of some 200 women still missing.
While joining their parents to rejoice and praise Almighty, we shall redouble efforts to ensure that we fulfill our pledge of bringing the remaining girls back home.
According to the reports, more than 100 of the women appear unwilling to leave their jihadist captors. They were likely radicalized or forced to marry and have children while in custody. Another prelate from Latin America has made church history. Father Arturo Sosa of Venezuela became the 31st Superior General of the Society of Jesus this week. He is the first Jesuit leader not to hail from Europe, dating back to the order's 16th century founder, St. Ignatius of Loyola. The newly elected Superior General says the top priority for Jesuits is to work for reconciliation in the world. Sosa, who was well known to Jesuit Jorge Bergoglio, now Pope Francis, stressed that at the heart of the Jesuits' mission is their link to the papacy and their willingness to obey him in choosing the priorities of their mission. He also said Christians should heed Pope Francis's message about caring for the environment and reconciling with creation because, quote, we are so wounded that we even put the planet Earth at risk. And finally, the Vatican is renting out some of its prime Roman real estate to American fast food giant McDonald's. But some of the church's top cardinals are, well, not loving it. Italian Cardinal Elio Scricchia was the first to object to McDonald's moving into the Vatican-owned building. He called it a controversial, perverse decision, not respectful of the architectural and urban traditions in Rome. In La Repubblica, he also objected to McDonald's burgers and fries, saying they were unacceptable cuisine and breached Italian taste. The battle to stop McDonald's has now reached the upper echelons of the church. According to reports, several cardinals who live upstairs from the potential McDonald's went so far as to write a letter of protest to the Pope himself. Assuming the Pope doesn't intervene, they'll be ordering Big Macs with extra formaggio any day now.